right, Grandma. Can you state your full name and your age?
Annie Mae Wingo. I'm 90 years old.
What's your date of birth?
August the 20th, 1926.
Where were you born?
Somerville, Tennessee.
What is the name of your mother and father?
My mother's name is Exa. Her maiden name is Robinson. My father's name is Tommy Green.
Can you tell me about them?
My mother she had five sisters and one brother. My mother, my grandmother died when she was a baby, and my grandfather remarried, and he had four other girls and one boy. My father, he was the oldest of all of them, all of his siblings, all of his sisters and brothers. He was born out of wedlock to Emerson Price. Um, when his father died, he died very young, a sudden death, acute indigestion. And my grandfather willed my dad a lot of property. He willed my dad houses, two houses, and a lot of land as far as you could see. Cows and horses, chickens, um, pigs, you name it, he had it. And during the pressure, he lost all of it because he mortgaged it. And it was when my granddaddy willed it to him, it was all paid for. But in the 20s, he mortgaged it, and then he lost it all. And then we went to sharecropping. I must have been about 5 years old at that time.
So, what's the name of your grandparents on your mother's side?
My grandfather was named Howard Robinson, but I don't know my grandmother's name.
What about on your father's side?
My father was named Tommy Green because my father was named after his dad.
How many siblings did you have?
It was 11 of us.
Can you tell me their names?
My oldest sister was named Mary Emma, and my brother was Shirley. My next brother was Emerson. Next brother was Adrian. And then my mother had two children, stillborn. And then she had another child, was Mary Ray, Frankie Lou, and myself, Annie Mae, uh, Willie Bell, and then Herbert.
So, taking back to your childhood, what was your childhood like?
Beautiful. I don't have no complaints of the way I was raised up. But when my dad lost everything, we was raised poor for a while. Um, we was raised on the farm, and we just had a good time. My dad was a dad that he demanded respect for his family, and my mother was a seamstress. She worked on the farm also. Uh, we went to a private school because we went to the schools called Smith Chapel Baptist Church School. That's where we went to school at. I went there until I graduated to Ellen White High School, and we had a good time. My mother never allowed us to fight one another or call one another names, and if we did, we got a good whipping. We was taught to love one another, and we was taught to if one have something and the other one didn't have it, we were supposed to share it, and we do that today. even though we're grown, but we still share it. And we was taught that we should not fight anybody unless it was self-defense. And we was taught also that you never make fun of anyone that's less fortunate than you are. You're supposed to always try to reach out and help someone that you see that need help. And we always had a lot of fun. We didn't have a lot, but what we had fun with it. I remember my mother and father slept on the first floor. We slept on the second floor. And we would get Sears Roebuck catalogs, and we'd cut paper dolls out of them. And then we would build stores for them to go to. And each one of us, we would have a store for our paper dolls. And then we had also paper dolls was made out of cardboard where we bought them at the store. And these particular paper dolls had clothes. And we would cut the clothes out of these cardboard paper dolls had clothes, and we would cut the clothes out, and the clothes always had a little fasten that you could hook on the back of them to make them stay on. And this is what we started off with, as a little girl about 5 and 6 years old. And then they started making dolls. First, they started making dolls out of rag dolls. We had rag dolls. And we learned to make our own rag dolls. And we make our own rag dolls. And then after that, we started making like China dolls. And each Christmas, we would get one doll. And we would try to save that doll until the next Christmas. We put it in the box, keep it in the box, so it was beautiful the next Christmas. And then for Christmas time, most time we always had small amount. We had what you call sparkles. My parents would wake us up around about 4 o'clock before daylight. We'd go outside, light these sparkles, and enjoy the sparkles in the dark. And these are little things that we enjoyed. And my dad, in the Christmas Eve, my dad would come in and tell us Santa Claus outside. What he was doing now, I'm sure he was going rubbing his hands on the fruit that was already in the house, and then he'd come and let us smell his hands and say he had put his hands on Santa Claus. When he said Santa Claus was outside, we always jump up and run outside to see Santa Claus. Never see Santa Claus. And then my mother used to bake a lot of cakes on Christmas Eve. She started the day before Christmas Eve baking cakes and pies, and she would always tell us that this cake is for Santa Claus. And when we get up the next morning, Santa Claus be done cut that cake and ate a lot out of the cake. So that was Santa Claus. And so we get up on Christmas Day. We have a big breakfast, all kind of cakes and pies on the table. Have sausage patties, big biscuits, eggs, and everything, you name it. The table be full of food. That was breakfast. And then at dinner time, we always have the like chicken dressing, all the trimming. That was for Christmas Day. That was our childhood day. And then when we went to work, my dad never allowed us to work for the people that we was renting from because he was a white guy. My dad was very strict about letting us associate with white men because at that particular time, the white men was trying to go with the black girls and the black women's, and they would run the black husbands away from the home and wouldn't allow the black husbands there. So my dad, when we moved to sharecropping, the man that we was renting our land from, he asked my mom to come and be his maid. And so my mom said, I have to talk to my husband. So when my mom told my dad what he had asked her, my dad went to him, the man that we was renting from, and told him, don't he ever ask his family to do nothing for him at all. If he wanted his family to do anything for him, he would come to him first, and then he would talk to his family because his family was his family, not his. So we never worked for any body unless my dad told us to work for him. We never worked on Saturday or Sunday like some people did. We only worked up until Friday, and then we didn't work anymore.
What was your life like as a teenager?
I said my life was beautiful. Like I said, I never had no complaint of the way my parents were. My parents were very strict, very strict. We went to church every Sunday. During the week, we didn't go to church unless it was revival. If it was revival, there was a time that everybody come together and sing and pray and save souls. But other than that, we went to church on Sunday. On Sunday morning was Sunday school. Then it'll go right over into the service. But first dating, my parents never allowed us to date unless it was Sunday evening because they always said that we had something to do. We as we weren't allowed to date until we were 16, and then after we were 16, we couldn't go on a date. If we liked the boy had to come to our house and visit with us at our house. And when the boy come to our house on Sunday evening, he had to leave there at 8 o'clock. He couldn't stay after 8. And when we entertained our boyfriend, it was my niece, Hattie, and my sister, Willie. It was the 3 girls at home at that time. And we all entertained our boyfriends in the same living room. And my mother would let us entertain in the living room. She'd be in the bedroom right across the hall from us. And when we would go on a date, our boyfriends, we would get in the car with our boyfriends. On this place we were allowed to go with our boyfriend was the church on Sunday. And then our boyfriend and we would be in the car. Our parents would be in the back in our car, driving behind us. So when we drove up on the church ground, our parents drive up on the church ground in their car. So we would get out and go in the church. We used to sing in the choir, and now we weren't allowed to talk when we go into church. Nobody could talk in the church. That was just the way it was at that time. And I remember we got so tickled. Something happened in church, and we got so tickled. Not just us, but to teenagers. We had to get up and go out of church because we were so tickled. So when we get home, my parents said, "What was going on?" Well, we didn't want to tell them. We just said we had to go out, leave the church, go outside. But that's the way my teenage life was. And when I think I was about 16, I went to see my sister in Memphis. And that's when I met my first husband. That's when we started dating. His name was Brett Green. Hmm.
Speaking of marriage, what was your marriage like for your first husband?
Terrible. Because I wasn't nothing but a kid. I met my first husband at 18. And when I married him, I didn't tell my parents I was going to marry him because he was much older than I was. Didn't nobody know I was dating. I met him when I went to see my sister in Memphis. And my sister was going with his brother. And his brother was younger than he was. And it's such a short story. And I didn't date him when I was in Memphis visiting my sister. We just talked, you know. So when I went back home, I visited my sister 2 weeks. When I went back home to my parents' house, my sister and my sister's boyfriend, which was my husband, my boyfriend's brother at the time, they came out to the house to see us. And everybody was sitting around talking, talking out on the porch because it was hot. It was in Tennessee. So my boyfriend, I didn't call him a boyfriend. I didn't know nothing about no boyfriend. I wasn't nothing but a kid. He asked me to come out behind the house where he was. I went out there. He told me about how much he loved me and about he wanted me for his girlfriend. He wanted to marry me. And I told him, I said, I don't want to marry anybody because I promised my parents I was going to finish school. And he said, well, if you marry me, I'll send you to school. When school open up, I'll send you to school. So at that time, we were very poor. All the kids going to high school at the time always were dressed up. But I was never dressed like they were because my parents would take, my mother was a seamstress. She would take flour sacks and make my dresses. And she would take flour sacks and make my slips for me to wear. And I never was dressed like the other girls in high school. Other girls had on little heels and silk stockings. I had on bobby socks, loafer shoes. And my dresses wasn't beautiful like the other girls. So I'm thinking, if I marry this man, when I go back to school in September, I can dress like the other girls. So I said to him, I don't know how I'm going to marry you because you live in Memphis. I live out here. He said, well, I'll send for you. I said, how you going to do that? So he told me that he was going to send for me and show me what to do to get away from the house and how to run away and meet him in Memphis to get married. So I did exactly what he told me to do. He told me, he said, now I'm going to send you the money. No, he gave me the money that day to come to Memphis to marry him. So he told me, when you get ready to come, you just get the bus. He told me what day to get the bus and come to Memphis, and I'll meet you there. So I did just that. So he told me when we go to the field, we was in the field, we were chopping cotton at the time. And he said, when you go to the field, he said, you leave the field and go to the bus station. And I did. I told my parents, because every day, one of us had to go back to the house and fix dinner at lunchtime. So I told my parents, I said, let me go to the house today and fix dinner. And I'll let you all know when dinner's done. We always did. We had a bell. We would ring when dinner was done. So when I went home to fix dinner, I didn't stop. I went right in and packed my clothes. And then I went to the bus station. I walked to the bus station because it wasn't far from our house. And I got the Greyhound bus, went to Memphis to marry my husband. When I got to Memphis, he did meet me there. So that evening, we didn't get married that day. The next day we got married. But that evening, my sister came over to his house because he and his brother lived together. And she saw me there. Then she says to me, Ann, what are you doing here? I said, I came here to marry Britt. That's my husband's name. She liked to have a fit. She hit the ceiling. She talked about him and she told him to take me back to mama's and all of this. And don't she was going to call the police and all this. And by me being so young, I just cried because I miss my parents. So then he told my sister, I'm going to be good to her. I'm going to take her and we're going to get married tomorrow. He did. The next day we got married. But he married me in a false name because he knew he was already married. Now, I didn't even know he married me under a false name. We weren't allowed to get married in Tennessee. If we had got married in Tennessee, my parents was going to have to sign for it. So he took me over in Mississippi, across the borderline. You could get married any age. So we went over Mississippi and got married and come back. Got married sitting in a car. We just sit in the car and the man, the preacher, whoever he was, just married us sitting in the car. So we come back. Then I'm still thinking I'm gonna go to school. But instead of me going to school, by the time school was open, I was pregnant with Dorothy, my oldest daughter. So he says to me, well, when the baby is born, you can go back. I'll let you go back to school. So she was born in February. February was still going on, but it wasn't, I couldn't go in between semesters. So he said, when school opened up in September, you can go back. Well, I'm thinking I'm gonna go back. And I had talked to my parents, my mom, about keeping Dorothy. So when school, a little before school opened, he said, "You can't go back to school because you got a baby to take care of." He wouldn't let me go back to school. So that was it. That was it with that. But jealous, he was jealous as he could be. He didn't want me to talk to anybody. I remember I was sitting, we had a house with a porch. My neighbor's porch was, and my porch was all together. So I'm sitting down on the porch with barber socks on because I was a kid. And he walked up, coming in from work, and he walked up and saw me sitting out there with my neighbor. And when he walked up on the porch, he says, "Come here, Anna Mae." And I went in the house. He liked to have a fit because I had on barber socks sitting on my front porch, telling me that I was sitting out there trying to attract men. One thing about no man. Sitting out there talking to my neighbor because she was much older than I was. I wasn't nothing but a kid, but she was grown, about his age. So after that, he would fight. He was abusive, and I once he and I had been into it, and I called my brother and told my brother to come get me after he went to work the next day. And when my brother came and got it, well, his brother wasn't at work, so his brother called him and told him that I had left, and then they overtook me in their car, you know, and he cut my brother off, so my brother couldn't drive. So then he got out and he told my brother he come to take me back home. And my brother asked me, said, "You want to go back home, man?" And I said, "Yeah," because I didn't want my brother getting no trouble. I went back to him and I stayed with him a while longer. I stayed with him then until I got pregnant with Nancy. And then when I got pregnant with Nancy, we had it was we had we got along fine until New Year's Eve, and we had a New Year's Eve party. His brother did at my house, and I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant as I can be, and his brother invited his ex girlfriend, my husband's ex girlfriend, to the party. So all of them in the house partying. And somebody said to me, "Why is she here?" Then you know that was his woman. And I'm big like I don't know what. And I said, "No." And then I got the butcher knife. And I went up there in the living room because I was in the kitchen. And I went in the living room. I told her, "Get out of my house." I said, "Right now." I said, "Get out of my house." And so she looked at me and she left. And so my husband, he told me, he said, "Come on in here, Anna Mae." I went in the bathroom. And he just smacked me upside my face. Just smacked me upside my face. And I'm pregnant. So I guess that must have put me in labor because before that morning, I was in labor with Nancy. That was New Year's Eve, and Nancy was born. No, that was New Year's Day, and Nancy was born the next day, that next morning, the 2nd of January. So I stayed with him then until Nancy about the next abusive. He no, after Nancy was born, and Nancy was about because I was gonna leave it. I got me a job, and when Nancy was 6 months old, Nancy was 6 weeks old. I got me a job and I started work. So when I started work, I was planning to leave it. And so he was gonna be abusive again, but I was nice enough to not to challenge him. And then when he went to work again, I got my brother to take me to my mom because his brother wasn't at home that time. And that's when I left him and I stayed away from him. He tried his best to get me to come back, but I never went back. I stayed with him until Nancy was about 6 or 7 months old before I left him the last time. So that was the end of us.
What about your second marriage?
Um, he was abusive too. I didn't live with him for about 2 years. And at that particular time, he and I met him through my sister-in-law, one of my brother's wives. And he was also abusive. But he was a dangerous, abusive guy. We was in the car once, and I asked him about, we were talking about money. He had picked me up, and we was talking about money, and I said, well, what did you do with, it's been so long ago, I asked him what did he do with his money or something. And he got upset, very upset. And I didn't know he had a gun. He pulled a gun and drew the gun. He cocked, evidently he cocked that gun in my face because the light come on. So I'm thinking today now that he had cocked it. And he threatened me that day. And so I was afraid of him. After that, I was planning to leave him. So I left him the same way I left my first husband. I waited till he went to work. I kissed him goodbye, and I had a truck waiting to move.
What was his name?
His name was William Hooks. And I had a truck waiting to move. And when he left, that truck was sitting out where they could see him leave. The truck came up, and I got my stuff in there, and I left him. And I never saw him anymore. Never. I moved in the building where my niece had lived. And he come to that building once asking, because I took his gun. I was intending to kill him if he had if I had seen him, I was going to kill him because I was afraid of him. And he come to had us. I lived upstairs and had to live downstairs on the first floor. And I heard him asking Hattie about me. So Hattie said, I haven't seen Ann. And he said, well, if you see her, tell her I want to see her. So I could hear everything he was saying because I was right there listening. So after he left, I called him back and asked him what did he want. And he said, I was looking for my gun. He said, did you take it? I said, yeah. He said, well, I want it. I said, I'm not giving it back to you. He said, well, what do you want with it? I said, to protect myself. He said, from who? I said, anybody that bothers me. I said, that's who I'm going to protect myself from. So I still got his gun. Mm. Today, I still got his gun. To not do nothing with it, just keep it. But that's the way it was but I never saw him again. I prayed to God to not to ever let me see him again, and I haven't. We got a divorce. I didn't have to go to the courthouse because my lawyer went, and he's supposed to have given me $9 a month for asthma. Do you know he slipped or changed his name and everything, keep him giving me $9 a month to help out with asthma. So Alvin don't know his daddy, never seen his daddy. I don't know. We don't know where he's at. Now, Osmond, his daddy had 4 children by his first wife. And those 4 children was the same age of Dorothy and Nancy. We don't know where they are. We have tried to find them, but we can't find them because we really want Osmond to know who his daddy was, but we can't find them. We've been on computer videos everywhere. We can't find them.
So for your last marriage, what was his name?
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys meet?
I met him. I was going downstairs to wash in an apartment building, and I got on the elevator, and he was on the elevator. I lived on the 6th floor, and he got on the elevator on the 1st floor. I'm going down in the basement with his friend, and his friend introduced him. He said, now this is a nice lady, and he peeped around his friends and said, hello, and I said hello. Mm-hmm. Now that's the way we met. And then after that particular day, I was working in the evening and my dad was living with me. Mm-hmm. So his friend would always come up to my house to try to get my phone number. And so his friend was married and, downstairs. They lived downstairs. And my dad told me about his friend was coming up to see me, every day. Mm-hmm. So my dad said, you go downstairs and see what he want because it don't look good. He's got a wife and he always knocking on your door. So I go downstairs and I spoke to his wife and I asked his wife what did he want with me. And his wife said, oh, say, the guy that was on the elevator with Roosevelt the other day? I said, yeah. She said, he wants your phone number.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I asked her, I questioned her about him. I asked her all about him, what kind of man he was, and so she told me he was a nice guy, you know, just put him up on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, he used to be married to my daughter. And I said, oh really? She said, yeah, but they couldn't make it. But he was a good guy, he was a good guy. Not telling me anything, just saying he was a good guy. So I said, okay, you can give me my phone number. So then he got my phone number, and he called me, and he wanted to take me out. But I never go out with a stranger by myself.
Mm.
So I asked my neighbor that lives right across the hall from me. She was married, of course. And I asked her if she would go with me because he wanted to meet me on the corner at a tavern.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I didn't go to tavern, I didn't drink. So I asked her if she would go I said, will you come and go with me up on the corner? I want to meet this guy because I couldn't stand him. I said, I want to meet him and talk to him. She said, sure, I'll be ready. I'll be ready to go with you. And let me put on some clothes. So we got ready. We went up to the corner. And when we get to the corner, he and his friend, what introduced me to him, was waiting. So we went in and I didn't drink anything, but my friend, she did drink soft drinks. So she ordered something to drink. All three of them, he didn't drink anything but a beer. He had a beer. And we talked, and after that, I went home. I come home, and he went home. And after that, he called me every day. Every day at lunchtime, he'll call me. And so we got real close, and I was working, and I didn't want him to know I was working. So when he come to see me, he he didn't see me every day. He just come to see me whenever. But every Saturday he would come to see me. But I had to work on Saturday. So on Saturday when he come and get me, we go out and have lunch or do whatever, because I had to be at work at 3. And I would tell him I got to be back home about 2:30. He would always mess around, drive everywhere. And so I'd be wondering, why don't you get me home? I told you. But I found out after I found out that after we went together a while, he was trying to make me late, but he didn't know I had to go to work. He thought I was going to do something else. And so my dad told me one day, he said, you need to tell that boy that you're working so he'll know you're working. Mm-hmm. So that's why I told him I was working. Then he would take me to work. He would get me to work on time. But that particularly courtship was beautiful because he could be out somewhere coming over my house. He'll bring me a gift to tell me that he was thinking about me. And he always bring me a little gift or something, when he come by my house. And we was always together on the weekend. He come by my house during the weekend, always together on the weekend. And we just kept going together. We went together for about 2 years before we got married. And after he would give me anything that I thought I wanted. He would give it to me. If I just say I wanted it. I remember he and I was at Goldblatt's shopping. And at that time, we had big high fives. And we would just walk around in Goldblatt's looking, as we always did, just go shopping, looking around, sightseeing. And I saw this big high five. Great big high five, always across the room. I said to him, I said, oh, this is so beautiful. He said, you like that? I said, yeah. I said, but I know I never will be able to buy it, Mm-hmm. He said, well, you don't know. You don't know. Someday you might have it. I said, no, I can't afford it. And so we went on about our business. So that same week, I got a call from the delivery boy. And the delivery boy said, is this Annie? I said, yeah. He said, I got a deliver downstairs for you. I said, what deliver? I said, I haven't ordered anything. He said, do you have a deliver coming from Goldblatt? I said, no. He said, do you know Jimmy Wingo? I said, yeah. He said, well, this delivers from him. I said, oh, okay, bring it up. I said, I ran immediately and called him on his job. Did you is there a deliver coming out? He said, yeah. He said, is it there? I said, no. I said, but they bring it up. When they brought it up, it was so big you couldn't hardly get it through the door. It was gorgeous. And so after they left, I called him again and told him about how pretty it was. He said, do you like it? I said, yeah, I like it. But that was his first big gift he gave me. And so after that, he would just give me gifts. If he think I needed something, he just give it to me. He just buy it for me. And once when we got ready to get married, he asked, I didn't think he wanted to marry me though. He asked me, would you marry me? Just like that. I said, marry you? He said, yeah. I said, yeah, I'll marry you. And I didn't know that he was serious. And so then he asked me again later, about 2 or 3 months later. He said, I thought we were going to get married. I said, we are. And that was in November, but around about the 1st of November. And I said, when are we going to get married? He said, we were married before Thanksgiving. We were married the day before Thanksgiving. I said, okay. That's how we got married. We went to the courthouse and got married the day before Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And he was the best thing that ever happened to me, though. He was good to my children. The children loved him because he was, when I got married to him, my son Osmond was about 5 years old. And he asked me, he said, Mom, can I call Mr. Wingo Daddy? And I said, well, I don't know. Uh, there he is. You can ask him. So he said, Mr. Wingo, can I call you Daddy? He said, yeah. So from that, the children always called him Dad.
Wow.
And anything he could do for my children, he would do it. I remember when my girls was working. They worked. We lived on the west side at different time, and the girls were working on the south side, 47th Street, in a restaurant. And they would get off at 11 o'clock at night, and he would get up every night and go pick them up. Every night, go pick them up from work. And after when we moved to Harvard, that's when Nancy, she got married right after we moved to Harvard. And that left Dorothy at home. So he would take Dorothy to work when I go. Dorothy was still going to college. And he would take Dorothy to college, drop her off, and then he'd take me on to work. But Dorothy would always take the bus back home in the evening. And so when Dorothy got married, then that just left the two boys. Martin. Did I say something about when Martin was born?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. I skipped that part. After we got married, Martin was born, and we were living in the project out of B. Wells. And when he came to the hospital, well, I went in. I had a problem carrying Martin because I was eating everything I shouldn't eat in and out of the hospital. Wasn't supposed to have pork, but I would go in the refrigerator and steal ham because I was craving for ham. And that would swell my feet and legs up. So I had always in the hospital getting that water off. So the day before Martin was born, I had to go in, no, 5 days before he was born, because I had to go in the hospital for 5 days to get the water off of my limbs again because I had swollen up because I had been eating that ham. And they sent me home that day, and I went in labor that same night that they sent me home. I had been in the hospital for 5 days. But they thought, they didn't know the baby was that close. And when I went in labor that morning before day, well, Jimmy had to take me home. He took me to the hospital. He was born in a county hospital. Jimmy took me to the hospital, running every red light until he saw police. Then the police escorted us to the hospital. And Martin was born. Time they drove me in the delivery room, they delivered Martin before they could do anything. So then Jimmy was so proud of his son. And after we came home, I felt like, I can't explain how I felt. I felt alone because I felt like I couldn't give him another child. I thought that was the end because I was 30-something years old when Martin was born. So, okay, then he was so crazy about Martin. Then we moved to the west side, and we stayed on the west side. That was before we moved to Harvey. And we stayed to the west side. We moved to Harvey when Martin was 4, because Martin stayed sick all while we was in the projects because it was concrete. And he always kept some like bronchitis in his throat and always was sick. And we thought we thought he wouldn't live because he always was in and out going to the doctor because he was sick with bronchitis. So when we moved to Harvey, he wasn't sick no more, never got sick anymore. And we were so happy that we was able to move to Harvey. We was not going to raise our sons in the project. That was out the question. So then I worked. I got a job and I worked. Before we moved to Harvey, I was working because I wanted to get a down payment on the house.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was working, I was making $29 a week. 10 of those dollars I would take to the bank every payday and give it because I was saving the money to surprise my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got the down payment on the house, we went out and looked for a house. So I told my husband we would always go for a ride. Sometimes we just take the kids out for a ride. And this particular day, I told my husband, I said, let's go look at some houses. He said, what are we going to look at houses for? We haven't got no money. I said, yes, we do. He's okay, Eddie. I'll take you a look at the houses. So we went to Markham. We looked at houses in Markham, different places in Chicago. And so we went to Markham again another Sunday, and we saw a house we liked. So we went in with the lady in the house, and we looked at it, and I told her how much money we going to put down on the house. And so when we left, my husband said to me, why you tell her we going to put that kind of money down? You know we ain't got no money. I said, yes, we do. He said, where? I said, it's in the bank. He's getting me, you ought to quit. So when we get home, I went and got the check. I went and got the bank book. And I brought it and showed it to him. He said, when you save all this money? I said, I've been saving it ever since I started working. I told you I had the money. And he just fell right in there to help me to get more money, you know. And then we got the house in Harvey, and that's when we started our life together, I would say. And he always bought me all these beautiful cars. He changed cars every 3 months, every 3 years.
What do you miss about him?
Oh, I missed everything about it. I missed it. I missed the talks that we used to have. I missed the trips that we used to go on. We used to go on. We used to go on a cruise. We went to Hawaii 3 times.
Oh.
We took 3 cruises 3 times. I missed the beautiful cars that he used to buy me. Sometimes I just wonder why did he have to leave so early.
Yeah.
But he had lung cancer. And he wouldn't stop smoking cigarettes. And he wouldn't stop drinking his Crown Royal.
How is your life different now than when he was here?
Oh, a lot different. I don't have what I used to have. I don't go on trips anymore because I don't like to travel by myself. And I don't have all of that luxury that I used to have. Because if it wasn't for my children, I couldn't live the way I do. But they see that I have everything that I need, you know.
What was life like as a mother?
What?
What was life like as a mother?
As a mother?
As a mother.
Oh Lord. My family was my whole life. And they still are. I wouldn't trade my children for nothing on this earth. I used to think that my children was precious,
Mm-hmm.
and I still do. Um, and my daughters, I had them on a pedestal. And uh, to be honest, there's nothing in the world I don't love as much as I do my children. They're my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love when my children and my grandchildren is in my house. I love to hear their voice echoed all through my house. Just having a good time. They laughing and joking and whatever. I sometimes I be in my bedroom and all of you all be up here in the living room and all over the house or whatever you're doing. And I just think to myself, what a blessing that parents have with their children and grandchildren. Because I think I got the most beautiful family in the world. Because we can all get together, we can laugh and we can joke, we can play, we can socialize, and we just have a good time. Nobody get angry, you know, and everybody leave happy, everybody come in happy. I just think honestly that I had the most beautiful family in the world. And it goes from generation to generation. I can see where the way I raise my children, my grandchildren is raising their children the same way. To love one another, to share, to be there for one another. And this was my prayer when I was young. I used to have to go and open up my place of work, business, and the first place I'll go, because this my workplace, nobody there but me and God. And I would pray to God to teach my children, let my children teach their children to fear him and teach their children about him so that the children wouldn't be lost. Because at that particular time, I wanted all my family to be there at Judgment Day when we go before God. I wanted all of them to be there. I'm thinking, we all going to be a family there again.
Mm-hmm.
And so God has let me live to see this happening in my family, how the children, all of them, goes to church. They know the word, they study the word, and they know God, and God has let me know that my prayer has been heard.
Mm.
You know, so yeah, as a mother, I'd do anything in the world for my children. They was my life, and they still are.
Mm-hmm. Can you give me some advice about uh, being a mother?
But being a mother, you have to put your children before you. And being a mother, you have to respect yourself and your children.
Mm-hmm.
If you want respect from your children, you have to respect your children, and then your children demand respect also. And being a mother, you love your children so much that you really don't want to spank them.
Yeah.
But when you see your child wrong, you have to know that it's wrong. And you have to let them know that you don't do this. This is wrong. And you have to spank your children.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of time what's wrong with the children today is that parents don't spank them enough. Parents let them get away with too much. And I think as a parent, when you speak, your child should listen. If you raise them right, they will. I see children tell the parents today, no, that's wrong. That's a no-no. If a parent said, don't do this, immediately that child should say, okay, thank you. All right, mom. Or stop immediately. They should, when a parent speaks, the child shouldn't say why. If a child starts saying why, they should be old enough to understand what the parents are saying. Now, as a child grows, I believe that they will ask the parents. The parents will say something, well, why, mom? But it's supposed to be respect when they say why. Not, why? Why can't I do this?
Mm-hmm.
No, it should be a respect of why, you know. And then that child should listen at what the answer the parents is giving them, not challenge the parents. Well, you did so and so and you did so and so. That's a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
A parent shouldn't ever let a child know where they can come back at them and say, you did this and you did that. Why is it that I can't do it? A parent's supposed to respect themselves before the child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I feel like a parent's, nobody's perfect, but I believe that a parents can do whatever they want to do, but they do it, the children shouldn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're going to do wrong, you shouldn't let your child know you have done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as your child grows, you don't have to tell them, I did this when I was young. But you can say, I understand what you're going through with.
Mm-hmm.
I've been at your age once. You know, I was not perfect at your age, so I understand what you're going through with. But you don't have to say, I did this and I did that. Because immediately then the child gonna say, well, if you did it, why can't I do it? You know, that's what I think is a mistake today. The parents letting the children know too much about their past. But if you're going to live any kind of shabby life before your child already know. You don't have to tell them, you know. And I think if you want, the bottom line is if you want respect, you're going to have to give respect.
Can you tell me one of the happiest moments in your life? Any accomplishments?
When I bought my house in Harvey, that was not accomplished.
Wow.
And I think my happiest life was when my oldest daughter graduated out of high school. That was the happiest life, I think it was.
Wow. Can you tell me one or two people who have been the biggest influence on your life and why?
My mother, because my mother always taught us right from wrong. She never took sides. If she thought we was wrong, she let us know we was wrong. That was my mother.
What are you most grateful for?
My children.
How has your life been different than how you imagined it would be when you were younger?
I think my life has really been fulfilled. Because when I was young, I used to always dream of a big house and a brand new car sitting in the front of it. Now, I never got that big house till I moved to Crawfordville. And I got that big old long house, stretched. Now, I think that was, my life really been fulfilled. Because I got what I wanted. I got the land and I got the house when I moved to Crawfordville. And when I was in Harvey, I had this brand new house with two brand new cars sitting in front of it.
Wow.
So I think my life really accomplished what I dreamed of.
Do you have any regrets?
I have some regrets. Because I think I could have been a better wife to my last husband. Because I thought he was a sweet. Because see, I think if I had the mind I have now, excuse me, I wouldn't have accused him. Because see, sometimes I would accuse him of things that probably wasn't right. That's the only regret. If I could live that life over with him, I would do everything I thought that he would want, like he did me.
Do you need me to get you some water?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. How would you like to be remembered?
I'd like to be remembered as a person that tried their best to be nice to everybody. And to try to love everybody. To see good in everybody. That's what I really would like to be. I would like to be that, my grandkids and my great-grandkids could look back and say, I don't think my grandma was a grouch. I never wanted to be that. When I got older, I didn't never want to be an old grouchy grandma. So I would like to be remembered that grandma did the best she could. her mama did the best she could.
What does religion and spirituality mean to you? And what role does it play in your life today?
Uh, our religion and spirituality, I find peace with that, peace within.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that God can solve any problem that I have. Anytime I'm faced with anything that I don't know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
I can go to God and ask Him about it. And I believe that He will answer my prayer. And that's what I rest on, is the Holy Spirit. Uh, I think I pray all the time. I'm talking to God, just me and Him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I get up in the morning, I say, Lord, I plan to do such today. Will you guide me? I'm going out on the roadway today. Will you clear the roadway for me so that I have a safe drive? Everybody, if everybody, we out there, let us be out there and we enjoy it. Don't let anybody get on one another's nerves. And every time when I get up, I tell God what I plan to do that day, and then I thank Him for a mind to say thank you. Thank Him for a sound mind. Thank Him for, even though I don't feel like getting out of bed, when I wake up, I say, Lord, I thank You for my health. I don't claim a hardly portion. I claim my health and my strength. And so many times when I'm talking to God, before I can finish talking to Him, I'm up and gone. I'm up on my feet, doing what I'm going on about my chores. Not so many times I'm talking across the floor, but I know God gonna guide me. So I really, the bottom line, I find peace within, because I do believe that any kind of problem I face, God can solve it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
What do you think God has taught you in your life?
He has taught me love and forgiveness, and He has taught me to not to judge people, to see good in everybody. And He taught me to look at myself so many times when I think it's somebody else is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I examine myself to see, what did I do? Like if someone got to get an attitude towards me, I go to God and I say, Lord, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I try to examine myself, try to find out why this person have an attitude towards me. And all the time, God will show me whether it's me or whether it's the person. That's what I think God has taught.
Any other advice?
I would say, just love your children and respect your children, and they'll love and respect you. But whatever you do, let them know you're the parents and they the child.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much.
I probably missed something, but so much in my life for 90 years now,
Yes, 90 years.